Support for the show comes from Amazon Prime. You might think of Prime as only a way to get fast, free delivery, or maybe as the place to stream movies, shows, and sports. But it's actually way more than that. Maybe you've got a passion or a hobby. Prime can help you get the most out of it. Whether you're streaming documentaries on marine animals, ordering action figure stands with free one-day delivery, or finding the perfect playlist to impress that special someone, Prime makes it easier and faster to do what you love. Whatever you're into, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into. Is our next guest here?
He's here.
All right, well, then let's get right to it. To help us with this portion, we're going to chat about the U.S. Open for a little bit. We're going to get into some Q&A if you guys have any. I thought, who better than one of the best coaches that has ever lived? Brad Gilbert's here with us.
Need a flashlight on him.
I'm not going to stack. Oh, man.
Hello, fellas.
All right, big pressure. You know who you succeeded up here.
The athletes manage better.
Okay, I'll take my hat off.
Oh, wow.
Show you my bald dome.
Yeah, I got one of those. How's it going, BG?
It's going okay. You know, we're getting to the business end. And, you know, as you get older, you kind of, you know, this term is now 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So that first week, and then you start getting here and you start really kind of seeing where the tournament's going. And you kind of thought where the men's started, we're exactly where you thought you'd be, and you're kind of exactly thinking where we're going.
Yeah. Talk about, we'll stick with the men's for a second, but talk through, you know, from Andre and Pete, you know, when you started with Andre back to when you were playing and they were great players, you know, you're talking, you know, Becker, Edberg, and the end of McEnroe, O'Connors. And so you've seen greatness in all its form. You've played against it. You've coached against it. You've coached against Federer when we were together. And then these two come along again. And is it just the constant kind of improvement over time, right? Like we would play Pete, but like you could play Pete and it's like, okay, if you can hit a kick serve out of his zone on the backhand side, you got something to play with, right? He was great at every other thing, but are these players now building off of Rafa, Roger, Novak, et cetera, as complete as you've seen?
Absolutely, because if you've seen like some 12-year-old kids now, the level of kids in all different sports, because everybody's all in on one sport. And you'll see kids.
Meaning that you're not playing baseball, football, you're committing earlier.
You're just playing one sport. And the level that you're seeing and, you know, the commitment. I thought in 22, when Alcaraz won here at first, you know, it kind of took me back that like, wow, maybe this guy's going to jump in. And then in 23, Joker reestablished himself. Mm-hmm. So if you'd have told me at the start of 24 that Djokovic wouldn't win one from, you know, that point, I was at no way. But it's not like Alcaraz and Sinner have been given anything. These two guys have taken it and they've run with it. If you put Andre and Djokovic in a blender, you get Sinner. His level is outrageous right now. I'm just shocked. And honestly, what's even more surprising is I don't think he's anywhere near the finished product.
Wait. How? But like, explain that. What I mean, he makes the adjustment on the serve. Yeah. He now's got a little bit of like, where do you see the improvement?
Cheese? What are the holes in that game?
See, this is a great question, and you know the answer. If you're 24 years old and you're satisfied with where you are, then that's what happens to you. And if you're 24 years old, like Sinner, who seems to be a much older soul than he is, right, and he's always focused on talking about the narrative about, he doesn't think he's that good. You know, I need to get better.
I call bullshit.
But Rafa was like that. He's very humble. He's very motivated to get better. And I think that the fact that he has somebody in Alcaraz that he knows that if he doesn't get better, might, you know, eclipse him. So I think that, you know, keeps him motivated. And then that's, you know, for everybody else now to potentially get in the mix. I don't think it's possible at this moment, you know, unless I'm wrong, that anybody could beat those two guys back to back. That's how good they are. And I hate comparing them to the big three because it's like they were amazing. But these two guys now are taking it and they're 24 and 22. Maybe we check back in 10 years and it'll be the next two that, wow, you know. But honestly, I thought we would be in a 3 to 5 year period
Parity.
of, yeah, who would be the guy? Well, they've erased that.
That's great, though. Is anyone else still trying to get the image of Novak and Andre in a blender out of their head? Let me ask you an adjacent question. I do these interviews, and one thing I always notice is there's so much talk about pressure. I didn't feel the pressure. I felt the pressure. When you're in coach mode, whether it's Andy or Coco or whoever, how do you explain to you're trying to get the player motivated, you want them to explain the weight of the occasion, but you don't want to add to the pressure? How do you coach and reduce pressure and not intensify it?
It's an interesting thought, but, I'm a quirky dude. I like waking up at 3 a.m. and thinking about the match or how you're going to help in some way make a difference. You don't win the match, you don't lose the match. But honestly, I get much less nervous about the coaching than if you had to play like I had to fucking play, you'd be nervous. So part of it is...
We know what he means by that, right?
Yeah, part of it is you're helping the player try to figure out how to maximize what they do well and understand what's on the other side of the net. And I try to make it, as less complicated as you can. And the one thing about coaching now, it's become way more complicated in that, man, when I was coaching Coco, they would send me 350 pages of data a day.
Who's they?
Her dad and the team, and from 4 different sites and everything like that. And my first thought is, they have all of that data on you. And the algorithm that's writing it isn't taking any human factor into it that, okay, we know they're going to play her forehand. I don't care what it says. Or there's some of these things, and a lot of coaches now in a lot of sports only hide behind the data.
Well, the other thing with that is, and this is something that, amongst other things, and I want to answer how do you deliver the message for the thing, because I have my own personal thing. But it's also about the data set values 15-all in game 1 the same as it does a point at 5-all in the third set breaker. So it's like you were very good at, okay, listen, this person likes this shape, they cut their serve. Take their most uncomfortable serve, give that to them, right? Make them take away their strength, make them hit the weak spot. So is your thing like the data set doesn't tell the entire story?
Well, I'll just know this. If I told Andre that the data said 90% of the time on this big point, he's going wide to the backhand. Andre's backhand's way better. And then the one time he does it, and Pete could beat an algorithm. He could change. Great players can make adjustments on the fly. And a lot of times, data is great over a long period of time. But in a one-off match situation, you have to be prepared that your opponent can make adjustments. And there's a really good chance that at the business end of the tournament, that guy or girl's level is good enough to make a change that day.
I'll tell you one thing that I'm fascinated about, because I'm not good at it. When someone comes into work for a couple days, I know what I think. I can analyze matches. I can sit here and talk on our dumb little tennis pod for days upon days about what I see. But I'm in a hurry to deliver the information, right? The best coaches that I'm now learning from talking to you, and Killer Cahill came on, is the timing and how to deliver a message, right? Talk about the different personalities that you've worked with. Because I remember the morning of our US Open final, it's kind of hectic. We play 5 sets, you're treating feet that have blisters and eating, and all of a sudden you wake up and it's that day. And you treat it like no other different. I remember us walking off the court for warm-ups, and it was very simple. Make this a heavyweight fight. Your biggest punch is bigger than this guy's biggest punch, and pose your will on him. And it's like, oh, okay, we could have talked for 25 minutes about something, but that's the last thought I had before it was actually time to settle in and kind of think about things.
So what's really important about coaching, see, if you say red, it's black. If you say, you have a little argumentative side to you, and your attention span is completely different.
What?
This guy?
Just
No.
hey, we're all in this sport. You got quirky, and part of understanding coaching is okay, Andre liked to discuss in great length. And you didn't, if I started getting in great length with you, you would tune it out. Maybe the message wouldn't get, what we needed. And sometimes with players, just because it works with one person doesn't mean it's going to work with another. And that's the really important thing about coaching. And I'm not a type of coach that has a philosophy. Some football coaches only have a philosophy, and I'm like, what happens if you don't have the players for your philosophy?
Explain that. Like, so if you played a certain way, you can coach that way, but are you saying like you have to see it through the player's eyes and adjust, or is it just, it's not one size fits all?
Well, I think I learned on the fly when I was playing myself and coaching Andre. And instantly, when you think about tactics, sometimes you think about it through your own lens, what you might have done, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever through Andre's lens. So I started instantly understanding that, okay, when I start thinking about tactics, it's not what I would do, it's only what Andre would do to be successful. And going from Andre, who's detail-oriented insanely, to you, who everything is in short bursts and things gotta happen differently. And sometimes you like to be challenged and not. And you have to understand how the best way that you can navigate and communicate with the player. And I adjust to whoever I'm coaching, that how are we just gonna make you a little bit better? Because I always feel like the difference between being really good and being great is only 2-3%. And if you can find that, we made one little tweak with you. Do you remember the one little tweak that we made besides getting rid of the visor and the hair gel?
I was gonna say visor. I also think that had I kept the visor, I would have gotten like the sunshine, and I'd be like buckwheat right now. I'd be just like.
What's the answer?
No. So the one thing we changed right away on your game, for some reason, I'm watching, a couple days into practice. I didn't get why you were standing on the baseline to return serve. And I was feeling like, you know what? You don't have Andre's hands. You miss too many returns. You have an unbelievable serve. But if we move you back, especially early in sets, you make a return here. Maybe a guy gets tight. Players don't tend to play good games out the gate. Maybe you could steal a serve, in the first two games. Maybe it turns into a 27-minute set the way you could hold. So that little adjustment, all of a sudden, you started making a few more returns, not as offensive, but numbers. That numbers mattered, and I felt like it changed sets for you quickly.
Yeah, no, I agree. You say that you kind of, how long does it take you to get the cadence of when to jump in and when to jump out? Because I think something that is maybe not talked about enough when it comes to coaching, everyone can instantly tell you what a coach does great, right? But restraint is something that's not talked about enough in coaching, right? Sometimes it can be what you're not saying, or if you're holding it back for 2 or 3 weeks for the right time, can people handle 8 things at one time, or is it one thing? When do you feel comfortable in a player-coach relationship? Are you observing for the first month, or do you go in thinking in a couple of things, or is that up in the air as well?
God, you're making me question myself. Honestly, if I walk on the court, I go to work. And I think about whoever I'm coaching, whether or not it's a 4 or 5 player, whether or not it's a junior, you start thinking about day one, how are we going to get better? And my first thought is, and I've never changed from this, whatever happened, I'm sure whatever happened before doesn't matter. It ain't coming back. So you start with going forward. What's the point of waiting a month? Heck, if I think something, I'm going to tell you. And if I'm waiting a month.
What if you think 6 things? Do you go one at a time, or are we just opening the floodgates?
Whew. If we're thinking 6 things, Houston, we got a little
You didn't take the job?
There's a few more problems, but honestly, you always feel like there's a way, there's light at the end of the tunnel. And more often than not, Tracy brought it up. It's about, and it was about my whole tennis career, my whole tennis life is about managing your game. Obviously, when you have more skills, it's still about managing your game, how to maximize it. And with you, we didn't make that many tweaks. You know, it was little things. You know, I remember about day 3 or 4 when I was coaching Andy, instantly everybody wanted me to get you to come to net more. And then I was thinking, God, you had this cup on your forehand volley.
Still have it.
Yeah. And
Not great.
And you could get passed in a phone booth.
Brad.
He didn't cover the net that well. And it was like, so I was thinking like, you know, we got to be a little more selective about coming in and wait for the right opportunity, because it's easy sometimes to look at somebody, one strength, and think they can do another. So I feel like, you know, I had a coach that would tell me in college, when Alan Fox. You ever meet Alan Fox?
Sure. Great.
He would tell me, no matter what, on everything, come to the net. And that was his thing. He would always, you know, and I would always tell him, it's like, I feel much more confident on the baseline. No, but you'll present it. And I was like, Alan, you know, it sounds good in theory, but he was a net player. He came in on everything, and it just didn't work for my game at 20. And I was really stubborn about it. But I never forgot it. And 6 or 7 years later, when I actually felt a little bit better about how I volleyed, it made more sense. But at that point, I wasn't ready, and nor did I have any confidence in it. And sometimes if you rush something that you know they're not ready for or she's not ready for, it can cause more problems. But you want to get to something if it doesn't work well, especially in today's game.
So I was going to ask you a big macro tennis question, but you said something earlier that I can't. I'm still trying to. Did you say you were playing while coaching Andre?
Yeah, you didn't know.
So how does that? So tell people how that works. Sorry, Andre, I can't sit in your box because I'm third on court 7. How does that work?
That's exactly what happened.
Support for the show comes from Amazon Prime. Prime is more than just fast, free delivery. It's your go-to for streaming music, movies, and sports. Plus, it's also a great way to connect with the things you love. Into skiing? Stream ski films on Prime Video even when the slopes are bare. Love fishing? You can get new gear delivered fast and be back by the water in no time. Planning your next big trip? Prime helps you get everything you need faster than you can write your out-of-office email. Whatever you're into, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.